running faster than sound, collecting gold rings, and fighting giant robots. It's just an average day for Sonic characters. But what if things were different? What if they weren't so different from us? What if they were human? I say we find out. Oh, and if you don't know me, hey, I'm Blue Mint, and I love character design, so much that I've turned these characters into these characters. And we're not stopping there, starting with Amy Rose. She can be the heart of the team, but she's got fire in her. She's basically unstoppable when she's mad. So I wanted the pose to reflect both parts of her personality. I was leaning toward the third thumbnail where she's sitting on a hammer that's been stuck into the ground, but I realized I made an illustration like that earlier. So I decided to go with the first one where she's leaning on the hammer casually while stealing Sonic's pose. I felt that matched her personality. I also went with Amy's older design because we don't really get to see it that much, and the pink, green, and blue actually make a really nice triadic color scheme. And I decided to keep the hammer, of course, but since I was using green, I decided to use the green upgraded hammer from Sonic Adventure 1. The colors actually matched really well, so I was happy about that. Speaking of Sonic Adventure 1 though, Amy's missions were actually really fun in that game. You had to run from this really persistent robot named Zero. Eggman must have injected the determination of like a dozen anime protagonists or something, because no matter how many times you hit this man, he would never go down. I know he eventually loses in the end and kinda took more L's than a can of alphabet soup, but if I had that kind of perseverance, I'd be a much better artist I am today. But I do my best to get better. Sometimes progress can seem slow, but you're always getting better, even if you don't realize it yet. One thing that actually helped me with this illustration was using Clip Studio Paint's 3D models to help with the pose. Being able to look at the exact pose that you want from multiple angles is really useful. And eventually, if you practice that pose enough, it gets added to your mental library. Then you can just use that pose whenever you want. It's like the difference between going downtown to get a book versus having it right behind you in a bookshelf. It just really speeds up the process. Oh, and I also really love the backgrounds they use for the Sonic Mania posters, so I decided to give that a try. And I really love saturated colors in general, so it was right up my alley. And that's the first one done. I really like how colorful it is, and I like how the pose turned out. She feels confident. And up next, we've got Cream. Cream is the Tails to Amy's Sonic, and it's the kind-hearted half of Team Jubilee, and probably the nicest character in the franchise. She's much more likely to be baking or making a flower crown than fighting, so I chose a pose where she's in the air spreading flowers around. That isn't to say she can't fight though. She can take on badniks and bosses all on her own, and together with Cheese, they actually can take down fighters like Emerald or even hold their own with the rest of the cast in Sonic Battle. But what I think really sets her apart is just how well she can raise Chao. Now, a normal Chao, they can run pretty fast for their size, fly short distances, and shake fruit out of trees, that sort of thing. Now, Cheese, on the other hand, was trained to rip apart robots with his bare hands, can fly indefinitely at subsonic speeds. There are also some Chao that are smart enough to pilot mechs and drive race cars. Now, Cheese is smart enough to understand language, so even though we haven't seen him do that, I'd be willing to bet that he can learn. Somehow, Cream taught Cheese how to do all of this, and I think the moment she realizes she can bring more than one Chao with her, it's kind of a wrap for Robotnik. I mean, she already owns another Chao named Chocola, and they're ready to go, and nothing is stopping her from raising more. Now, even ignoring the fact that Chao can have claws, dragon wings, breathe fire, or just straight up come preloaded with superpowers like invisibility, all of that is overshadowed by the fact that she could just evolve them into Chaos Chao. Yeah, remember Chaos, the shapeshifter that could fight Sonic, use the Chaos Emeralds, and casually shrug off bullets. Yeah, they'd be little versions of that. That isn't an advantage, that's a win condition. That's giving every Sonic character a small little stand from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. All I'm saying is that if this idea is ever mentioned even in passing, Robotnik's gonna need a lot less crab meats and a lot more Metal Sonics. So of course I had to include the little hero right next to Cream. And with that, Cream is done. And our last character to turn human is... Styx the Bat. Styx is kind of a wild card that made her appearance in Sonic Boom. At first, I didn't touch the show with a 10-foot pole, but the show kind of grows on you. And Styx as a character was growing on me too, but there's no getting around it. She's a little crazy. Because she has so many conspiracy theories, my first thought was to draw her with one of those conspiracy corkboards trying to predict Sonic Adventure 3. But then I realized we didn't get a lot of moments in the show that explored her background, which is a shame, because even though we only know a little bit about her, what we do know is actually pretty tragic. Styx grew up alone in the jungle. She didn't have any parents, and she didn't have anybody until she joined the team. In fact, her only known relative was her great-great-grandfather, who was a greedy banker known for kicking people out of their homes to get their land. And because of that, they kicked him out because they hated him, and evidently, they shared that sentiment with anybody that was related to him. Now, whether this led Styx's parents to abandon her alone in the jungle, or if they passed tragically from some other reason, the show doesn't really say. All we know is that it was just Styx alone in the jungle, left to survive and fight every fear she would have had alone. But she did survive. She conquered her fears and eventually her loneliness too. So thinking about that story, I thought it would be nice if Styx had a little memento from her family. A little music box she could play whenever things got rough. Something to give her a little strength when she needed it. I really like it when some artists leave a hint to a bigger story in their backgrounds, and I'm not that good at it yet, but I'm gonna keep giving it a shot and get better. And that's Styx as a human. And I was gonna stop there, but I had one last idea. Robotnik. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't Robotnik already human? And you'd be right. Despite his shape, he's already human, I think. But I had the idea for this illustration while working on the others, so I'm turning him into an anime girl at the very end. I wanted him standing in front of the glowing eyes of his robots, trying to intimidate the viewer. I wasn't entirely sure which pose I would go with though. At first I thought I wanted him to taunt us, pulling down his eyelid and sticking his tongue out. But I decided to go with this overconfident sitting pose because, let's be honest, he doesn't do a lot of standing. And I was actually surprised to see the amount of Robotnik designs to choose from, but I decided to go with one that's closer to the model we know. And I love that as far as video game villains go, that Robotnik is actually proved to be a significant threat most of the time. With a lot of different versions of him having already conquered the world, or at least a lot of it. My man was using AI to take over the world before it was even cool. Some really good examples being the Sad AM TV show, and more recently, Sonic Forces. He seems to get so close to just staying in power and always just loses it at the end. It's like a loading bar that gets stuck at 99% and just never quite finishes. Maybe he should start raising some Chao. Anyway, I finished up the illustration with them holding a hologram of their own face, because of course they would do that. And with all that, Robotnik's done. And that's everyone. What characters did you like most? Who do you want me to draw next? Let me know in the comments below. And we're still small enough that I will 100% notice your comment and say hey, so don't be afraid. And I also brought cookies. So thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.